Good afternoon and welcome back to the very special experience, Wedding Extravaganza 21 Wedding Planning Workshops. For those of you who joined us this morning, welcome back. And for those of you that are just hopping online for the first time today, we're glad you're with us today. Taking some time out to plan your wedding. So just going to go through a few things. My name is Nancy Campana. I am the owner of Nouveau Event Planning, and we normally produce the wedding shows at the Caboto Club, the fall wedding event in September, and the January Wedding Extravaganza show. This year, we found new ways to connect you with wedding businesses, including our gift bag giveaway that I hope all of you have in hand now, as well as these virtual wedding planning workshops. We will go to a question period with Lorraine from Anything and Everything in a few minutes. And then 20 minutes in, about 20 after, we will open up the chat so you can ask your questions too. At the end of the workshop, we will give away our prize. And you have to be online and registered with Wedding Shows Windsor to win. We also want to remind you to check out weddingshows.com. We now have the largest shop online regional directory online where you can go and really source out a lot of vendors in this area for your wedding. A lot of them do have Wedding Shows Windsor specials up on our shop online page, and every week we're adding new suppliers to that shop online page, so check back often. I'd like to thank both Sweet Revenge and Anything and Everything for my backdrop today. Thank you, Lorraine. It looks so pretty. And I also want to remind all of our couples online today that we do have a loyalty program, which once again, they can look at weddingshows.com. And if you spend money or book your services with those loyalty members, you can simply turn in your receipts to Wedding Shows Windsor after your wedding, and we will have a gift on you based on your spending with those loyalty vendors. So make sure to check that out as well. So Lorraine from Anything and Everything, she is the longest established full service wedding decorator in Windsor Essex County and was actually in our very first wedding show back in 1988. Lorraine has seen the world of wedding decor evolve dramatically since she began her business 34 years ago. She specializes in striving to meet most wedding decor budgets and still create the wow factor. With a team of experienced staff whose goal is to create your decor dreams come to life, Lorraine's experience and expertise have been sought after for hundreds of weddings over the years, and literally hundreds of weddings you've done, Lorraine.
Actually, probably thousands.
Welcome. And I know this season is shaping up to be a busy one, although, you know, once again, looking a little differently. I think we're all hopeful in the wedding industry that now that vaccines are rolling out, that at some point in late spring or early summer, we'll be back to that 50 indoors and 100 outdoors for weddings. And then of course, we have a lot of couples planning ahead for 2022. And we're all hopeful that we'll be back to large gatherings at that time, and the wedding industry will get back on its feet and rolling with larger weddings. But for those who want a small wedding, what a great year to do that.
Exactly, exactly.
So maybe, Lorraine, you can give a quick recap of what we talked about when you were online with us in January. Just generally, how far ahead should a couple book their decorator? And, you know, what with outdoor weddings especially, what should couples keep in mind for their wedding decor this year?
Yeah, actually, we started with a little bit of history of decor last time, of how back in the day, how simple it was to today, how it's grown and become so much more extravagant. I think keeping in mind right now with COVID and a lot of people turning to outdoor events, there are a lot of things you have to think about. And most of all, I think it's weather, things that can go wrong, and be protected. That's very important, that you're sheltered from possible inclement weather. We can make it beautiful outside. There's not many restrictions. You can do just about anything indoors that you can do outdoors, with exception, I always recommend maybe lower centerpieces because of the wind factor. But usually you can do pretty much anything outdoors that you can do indoors. And that seems to be the trend. A lot of people, due to COVID, in order to get the maximum amount of guests at their wedding are turning to an outdoor event so that they can have more people. So there are facilities in the city that offer outdoor sheltered environments, and you can bring in your own homes and things like that. So I think we just went over all the basics, and we had quite a few good questions, and I hope we get some more of those at the end. I'm happy to answer any of those.
Well, that's wonderful. And one of the things, Lorraine, I did mention when we were talking to Leanne from Festival Tent Rentals today, and this was something that you saw last year that I thought was a great suggestion, was, if couples are having a hard time paring down that list, consider possibly having a lunchtime gathering and or reception, and then a dinner time one, and you can maximize the number of guests you could see in a day. Might make for a little longer day for couples, but a lot of couples do have big families that they're very close to, and when there's two people coming together that have very close big families, it makes it difficult to pare down that list. So that's a consideration as well. I just want to remind everyone online that's come online, I've seen a few people come online as an iPhone only, and unless you have your first and last name in, you can't win the prize, because we have to be able to confirm that you are a registered engaged couple with us. So just go to the participation button and make sure your first and last name is on. Okay, Lorraine, let's get into the juicy stuff.
Okay.
Should you start with a color theme for decor, or should you start with a style for your decor? What would you suggest you start with first?
I would start with style. As far as color goes, most decorators have pretty much everything in every color. And you usually start with the base color for the linens and that sort of thing. So the color can be changed as you go. I've had girls change their mind. They're not sure what dress color. They start with one color and end up with something totally different. So the color doesn't necessarily have to be chosen right away. But style, yes, of course, that makes a lot of your decisions as to what kind of style you're choosing, down from your menu to the venue and so on. So definitely I would think choosing a style that you're comfortable with and that shows your personality, that's always very important to choose before.
Okay, so I came up with kind of a compartmentalized version of what we see most in weddings and styles. And maybe you can give a short description and some common elements that would be part of this style. So if I said to you, I have a classic style, what would you say to me that would look like? What type of elements would you want to include in my wedding decor?
With a classic style, I would probably say little or no color, very neutral. Often girls will add in the mahogany or the gold chivarri chairs because it's that look they're looking for. It's very formal looking, lots of floral, not a lot of greens, crisp linens or overlays. Always in any style, I think lots of candlelight. You're kind of going a little bit extravagant, but to a simpler tone, and probably some nice warm lighting in that when you're choosing like your backdrops and fabrics and the lighting on them. So something along that nature.
Okay. And if I say to you, I'm going to have a beautiful 3-day affair, Indian wedding, and the cultural aspects of my wedding are very important to me, what would that decor look like?
When you're doing cultural, it all depends on the nationality. And if you're talking, for example, Indian weddings, they're bright, vibrant colors, the purples, the fuchsia, the gold, greens, orange, they put them all in there. And they have a lot of routine and different ceremonies throughout the couple of day event. I have Philippine weddings and they have, certain things they want done. Oriental weddings, they like a lot of red and gold, and white is a no-no for them. So I guess it just all depends on the nationality and the culture and the history, and often, what's the word I'm looking for? Family traditions.
Right.
Yeah.
If I say to you, I am a glam girl, I like the bling. Tell me what I should include in my wedding decor.
Okay, when I think of a glam wedding, sometimes they can be like over the top. I love just going for it. So a lot of girls choose the glitzy linens, the golds, especially rose gold. A lot of crystal, the ghost chairs, the clear acrylic ghost chairs look very nice with a glamorous wedding because it's modern and it goes well with crystals. They'll use crystal centerpieces like crystal candelabras. Again, floral, but not greenery, just more the floral look, bigger florals. I would think some nice bright lighting, like the cool lighting, not the warm glow, more of the cool glow look. Flowy backdrops, lots of fabric and that type of thing. Rustic's easy.
Yeah.
And probably
a lot of over the last couple of years, right? Is that beautiful rustic look, and it goes hand in hand so well with outdoor weddings.
Yeah, and I like that as my forte, I should say, because I've planned my site and things lately going with more of a rustic theme because that seems to be the trend right now. But I can do anything. But the rustic, lots of wood pieces, decorating with the wood crates, the wood cutout cookies under your centerpieces, burlap, lace, the flowers, lots of candlelight. Girls use mason jars in their centerpieces. Definitely lots of greenery and more outdoorsy looking and wood looking.
I get feel I find a lot with the rustic, right? If you kind of like that vintage feel,
exactly.
Look too.
Yes, exactly. A little bit different than the boho look. It's more Victorian vintage.
And finally, I want a theme wedding. I have no idea what theme I want, but I know I want a theme wedding.
Okay, I've done many themed events and weddings actually. A lot of girls have chosen like a Renaissance wedding where they literally wear the vintage 18th century gowns and the wedding party is all wearing them, and they plan their menu according to that and eat that type of food. My nephew had a Halloween wedding and the ceremony was very reserved, but everyone changed into Halloween costumes for the reception. And we did it Hollywood Halloween. It was amazing. I've done a lot of different themed events. So I guess it's just, if you want to have some fun, a lot of people enjoy getting into that and getting into character and costume. So it can be a lot of fun at a wedding.
Should I look in my closet or at my home decor to help me decide what is my style? Or is that kind of a questionnaire you would go through with a couple that comes to you, Lorraine?
Yeah, I think that our home reflects who we are, and it's our happy place and our comfort zone. And I think when you're planning your wedding, looking at who we are is very important, and how we're going to decorate it depends on that. You want to have a day where you have no worries and you're relaxed and you're comfortable. I've seen times where everyone likes to help and give you ideas, and some people get, I don't want to say pushy, but want to put their ideas on you. And I've seen where girls have kind of had some conflict without hurting anyone's feelings, but they really don't want a head table. They don't want to be on display, but yet someone in the family wants them to have that head table. So I just always say, open the discussion with family, be honest, make sure that you're comfortable with what you've chosen, and just have those talks that sometimes might be difficult.
Yeah. And, you know, we've seen so many changes when it comes to things like head tables and, you know, not just all round guest tables. We've seen a big trend towards larger rectangular tables at weddings, and and nothing has to be the way it was at your parents' wedding or even at your friend's wedding 5 years ago.
Exactly.
Things have changed tremendously in the wedding market, and you know, we were seeing that before COVID, but now I think with COVID, really, it's the perfect opportunity for you to do the wedding the way you want to do your wedding, because all rules have been thrown out the door.
Exactly.
All tradition's been thrown out. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there some decor ideas that are better suited for outside than inside?
Like I said before, a little bit earlier about the weather. The weather can wreak havoc sometimes, often very, very, you might have perfect weather and a perfect day, but sometimes it can be windy. So I just recommend for outdoors, you keep a lower centerpiece. Mm-hmm. And indoors, it's endless. You can do anything you'd like. But I think for outdoors, the only restrictions that I say, and then keep in mind your sealing of your fabric, sealing and lights or fabric, because again, if it gets really windy, that can get real flowy. And so just, I always recommend when you're choosing, like a lot of people are, I spoke to a girl recently and she was having it at a pavilion and she says, well, we're sheltered. I said, you're sheltered for rain to a degree, but there can be like sideways rain coming in and wind blowing wet through the tent. So I always recommend that if you're choosing a pavilion or something, maybe have a more of a shelter. So either get that rent sides. I don't know if you can do that from the tent company to put some wind blockers and some protection, because that can really wreak havoc.
Yeah, as being a corporate planner in this area in 34 years, I've seen it all when it comes to outdoor events and weather. And that's something a lot of people don't think about is the wind. There's a reason we have wind farms around here. And that's we're an extremely windy region with most days having some point of wind. And even just a light wind can blow a centerpiece over if it's too top heavy. So it's really, you know, tap into your decorator, a professional like Lorraine. They know what works, and I wouldn't argue with them when they say that's going to be too top heavy if you're having, because we've all seen those catastrophes happen.
I had literally did a wedding once and it was in a domed barn. So it was open on each end. It was like a wind tunnel. As soon as you put a roof, it creates like a wind tunnel. And literally I had to come home, get bricks and put them on all the centerpieces. They were the high metal centerpieces, cover them with fabric, cover them with greens to hide them. But we made it happen. But the wind can be a big factor.
Lorraine, would you say there's certain decor colors that look better in photos than others?
Sure. I heard once something said about in wedding photos to go with a more subtle colors. So in your photos, you stand out more than the colors do. I think they always say red is a no-no when you're attending a wedding or to wear a wedding, to a wedding, sorry. But decorating with red at a wedding looks very nice. I think photography, I'm partial to muted colors, but I think a photographer would probably say that greens and light blues and purples, those really show up nicely in photos. Like we said earlier, everything's thrown out the window right now. Pretty much anything goes. I think lighting's very important for your pictures, your photographs in your facility. If it's too dark, it's nice to have a little bit of lighting to help enhance in the candlelight and so on with the photos. But I think I'm finding this year, the sage green again is becoming very popular, and I'm getting a lot of terracotta this year.
Terracotta?
Oh, terracotta. I've had 4 girls in the last 2 weeks say they're doing terracotta. So that's a new color this year, and yellow's coming back.
Yeah, yellow's gonna be strong for sure.
Yeah. But I was really shocked at how much terracotta and the sage, and again the blush and the dusty mauve is still very popular. So they all look great. And
a lot of that prairie grass look. So I'm thinking the terracotta ties in with that.
Exactly, and the pampas grass, yes.
So I'm going to open up the chat, and Lorraine, I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we'll go to our audience's questions.
Sure.
Should my wedding gown reflect my decor style? So what comes first, the gown or the decor, or wedding gown doesn't have to reflect decor style at all?
Well, I think every girl has dreamed of her wedding day and her wedding dress forever. But very often when you're going to pick out your dress, you end up in something that you weren't expecting. It's just you put it on and you know. So it does kind of have a little bit of bearing. And I think just the color, if you're in a white dress, you tend to go more white decor. And if you're in an off-white dress, It's better to complement your room as your base color with your ivories and off-whites. So I think they go hand in hand. I don't think it's absolutely necessary to have your dress first,
Okay.
but I think they do go hand in hand.
Okay, so we're going to questions because they are coming in. Adriana is asking, if my colors are lavender, gray, and a hint of green, what are some centerpiece ideas?
I always tell, it's hard to just throw them out there without getting a feel for what that particular person is looking for. But anything to do with candles mixed in with some floral, you start with a base of different soft colors and pastels with that. I always tell girls I like to do a high-low effect in the centerpieces. So I think something with some height and then something low. And on the lower ones, I usually recommend like the cylindrical candlelight with just cut flowers around the base. And it just all depends on your budget as well, right?
And I think you talked last time about silks and artificial, really good quality artificials coming back. So, you know, when he says lavender, gray, and a hint of green, boy, I see like some really pretty artificial lavender flowers, and the scent that you would get out of that. If you put some lavender scented candles on the table would be beautiful.
Yeah, there is a lavender farm locally around here, and a lot of girls go there to pick fresh lavender, and putting that in her room with her lavender decor would be really nice.
Beautiful. Yeah. Amanda is asking, have you ever decorated for a friend's themed bridal shower before? Do you have to work off, do you have to work off of pieces you already own, or can you go and rent other pieces needed for specific themes for a bride that's looking for something special? So have you ever decorated a friend's shower? And if you don't have the elements needed, do you go out and source those?
Absolutely. I've never done a friend's theme. I think that is great. Have a neat old couch and the coffee mugs and do like that kind of atmosphere, like when they're in the coffee shop, would be really unique. But no, if I don't have it, I do have a lot of props because I specialize in proms. So I do have so many themed props. So if I don't have what you're looking for, I try my best. And with the marketplace now on Facebook, you can pick up so many unique old couches and old pieces that you might need for an event like that. So absolutely, I work with you to put our brains together to come up with something. And if I don't have it, I help you find it for sure.
Emily's asking, we are getting married in June 2023. When is a good time to book you? Sooner than later? And how much of a deposit do you require at the time of booking?
I always tell my brides, sooner than later is better for any of us, not just a decorator. Your main people, your DJ, your photographer, they get booked up fast. And especially right now, due to COVID, last year's weddings booked this year, and a lot of them are still moving to next year because they still want a bigger event. So things are getting booked up, and I am already booking into 2023. I still have quite a few openings for 23, but it's never too soon, to be honest. It's just better to get, even for your own peace of mind, I think it's better to have your things booked, and then you can relax a little bit. And how I work my payment schedule, it's a third, a third, and a third. So your first, whatever your decor budget is and what we come up with, it's 1/3 of your total.
Perfect. Sarah is asking, if a bride wants to source a lot of the decor herself, do you have any recommendations of who to hire to simply set everything up the day of? I work with brides that have their own decor, and we will go set up, because you always end up needing something from us. Usually there's always something. So I have no problem working with a bride with things that they have and things that we have, and work together. Okay. My wedding is in the summer. Do you recommend real flowers, greenery, or silk? Samantha. Okay, repeat that question. Sorry. Are they? My wedding is in the summer. Do you recommend real flowers, greenery, like real flowers with greenery, or silk? I recommend either or. It all depends on your budget. Budget constitutes the answer to that question, because fresh flowers and fresh greenery
can be quite expensive. So I recommend either or. If you're outdoors, other than your arbor, because it's such a distance away, I always recommend that can be artificial. But outdoors, I tend to lean towards using more fresh and more greenery because you are outdoors. But that's not to say you can't use silk. Whenever I do any of my silk, I still tie in a bit of real greenery, which I'm going to show you guys at the end of this little talk. I'm going to show you a few things.
Okay, so we're going to do 2 more quick questions so you can show us and then move on to our price. From Leslie, do you have non-fabric backdrops? Can backdrops be reused for ceremony and reception?
Yes, I have I have floral backdrops. I have greenery backdrops. I have wood backdrops. So yes, I do have non-fabric backdrops, and they can be used at both. And I do have them, they're in compartments. So you can have one section at the ceremony and then I add to the reception.
And Chelsea is asking, with decor and setup, does that include dinnerware, or do we need to provide that ourselves?
That's all dependent on your venue. And if you're having a wedding at home, your caterer, whether they provide you with the dishes. We do not provide that. I do provide a few things, napkins and wine glasses if needed, but usually your venue or your caterer will supply the dishes. And if not, I outsource them and I can help you do that.
And we do have a few companies that also supply specialty, right? Really beautiful specialty dinnerware, flatware, and china now. And this is the last question I'm going to ask from Emily. I think you gave the answer to this last time. Approximately how much would decor cost for 150 people? What is the ballpark? And I think you said to estimate $20 a head last time we met.
As a starting point, yeah.
Which I thought was a really great starting point. So $20 a head times 150, we'd be looking at $3,000, correct, for decor?
That's a good starting point. Now it can be less. I don't like to scare girls off if they're having less things, and it can be more if you're adding chivalry chairs and extras. So, but a good base for a good wedding with nice decor, it starts at about $20 a person.
Okay, do you want to show us what you have set up?
Sure.
And
disconnect here. Welcome to my kitchen. So I just threw together just a couple little things here. And I did start with a little bit of a vintage theme because it just seems very popular. So can you see this centerpiece right here?
Yeah.
So I just combined some floating candles on a wood log with a wood table number. And these are real greens, but artificial flowers. So it keeps your costs down. Now I can do real flowers if you prefer, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So that's kind of a more vintage type setting. This is where I use mason jars. A lot of girls do it yourself and you just get the mason jars. These get floating candles, and I threw some baby's breath in here and a little bit of greens. So that's something you can do. I did a lace, a lace tablecloth with your underlay, adding a gold chivalry chair, you know, can really enhance it. You can do burlap, lanterns. I did some wood crates just to give you a little bit of a feel of a vintage look. And then I just did a chiffon runner here with some greenery, a greenery runner. These are all fresh greens. And this is all artificial. With adding real greens, it just tends to look more realistic. So that's to get your high effect. Right. Now this would go on top here as well, a floral. This is all artificial. And I can tie on these real greens in here, and then it looks more realistic and it keeps your cost down. This in real would be $300, but you're looking at a $40 rental as opposed to $200 to $300.
Wow, that's a huge difference, and beautiful.
Yeah, and I just threw a few greens on the curtain just to show you if you have a curtain backdrop, we can tie in, you know, some things to just tie it all together.
Well, that's great. We have a giveaway, and